Previously, when Sejun Park was preparing to light the fire, a little girl appeared before him. Little Flame told Sejun Park that this was the happiest she had been ever since she became conscious. Sejun Park felt puzzled by her name, as it didn't match that of an apple tree. He wondered why Flame, being a plant, could talk. Upon this, Little Flame quickly told Sejun Park that she is a fire apple tree and that she can speak through magic that conveys her consciousness, which is why she took this name and transformed into this form. She thought Sejun Park didn't like her, so she seemed a bit downhearted. Flame explained that she did this to please her master. Seeing this, Sejun Park hurriedly explained that he really liked her and complimented Flame as the cutest. Thinking that he was facing a magic apple tree, Sejun Park couldn't help but marvel. He also wondered if the apples brought by Flame were really that amazing. Hearing Sejun Park's words, Flame shyly said she wasn't that great. Originally, as a seed, because she felt intense heat, she started to root downwards to survive. Little Flame kept going down and down endlessly. She didn't even know where the end was until one day, her roots finally made a new breakthrough. Then, Flame went out to check the situation and unexpectedly discovered an underground river. Thus, with the cold river water, Little Flame withstood the heat from above the soil. In the darkness underground, she was hoping every day to break through the surface and sprout anew, and to reunite with her master. Therefore, now seeing Sejun Park again, Flame expressed that she had no regrets. After hearing her story, Sejun Park felt sorry, blaming himself for placing a bonfire above the plant and always forgetting to clean up. Flame, however, believed that it was because of Sejun Park that she became so strong. After speaking, a flame suddenly sprouted from the center of the sapling, and Flame showed Sejun Park her ability. Sejun Park was again surprised, not expecting that Flame could control flames. Flame proudly said she was a fire apple tree. Sejun Park applauded her, and Flame was very happy. Her appearance deeply attracted Sejun Park, as she was just too cute. Flame said, although she can only do so much now, she will grow quickly and then help Sejun Park. Such a clever and sensible little sprite instantly healed Sejun Park. He gently consoled Flame. You must have suffered a lot underground. Now that you are on the surface, don't push yourself. From now on, just grow up healthy, because overexertion can make one sick. Being petted made Flame very happy, and she promised Sejun Park that she would grow well. Then, Flame coquettishly asked Sejun Park to continue petting her little sapling. This day became the most beautiful day in Flame's life. However, Flame still had a secret she kept from Sejun Park, that her roots had actually entered the dimensional sea. Regarding this, Flame hoped everyone would keep it a secret, as it would surely surprise Sejun Park. Meanwhile, at the Phoenix Guild campsite, Taijun again asked the little cat where Sejun Park was currently. Hearing the master's recent words, Dongshik finally remembered that when Teo told them he was at the 40th floor, Sejun Park had saved them. After the lie was exposed, the little kitty began to stutter, looking unwilling to reveal too much. Sejun Park had already attracted worldwide attention on Earth, and for those outside the tower, he was a very important figure. As the leader of the Association of the Republic of Korea, Taijun wanted to know Sejun Park's current situation, whether he faced difficulties that prevented him from leaving the tower, and whether he needed their help. Taijun sincerely begged the little cat to tell him at least a bit of general information. After hearing this, Teo suddenly went to rummage through his backpack, then took out a contract, stating that what they said next must be kept confidential, and asked Taijun to sign a contract. The contract required both parties to tell the truth, and the violation would cost them their lives. Teo said if Taijun wanted to know more, he had to sign this contract. What the little cat did not expect was that Taijun agreed without hesitation. Dongshik wanted to stop him, but didn't expect that Taijun also wanted him to sign the contract. Then, the two men and one cat entered the tent and began to write their names. Soon after, the tower officially recognized the contract as valid. Taijun even staked his own reputation, stating that what he said next would be confidential and true. Now, it was the little cat's turn to tell them Sejun Park's location. Soon, Teo said, Sejun Park is not on the 40th floor. What I can tell you is that Sejun Park previously said he was on a floor that humans cannot reach, a very, very high floor, and he cannot come down. The little cat's words made Dongshik incredulous, while Taijun had an as expected expression, confirming his suspicion. After waving goodbye to the master and apprentice, once Teo completely disappeared, Dongshik asked the master if Sejun Park's situation was really as described, because no matter how strong an awakened one is, they must rely on Lin Gen to reach higher floors, and Sejun Park was even growing crops in such a place, which made Dongshik think he was at least around the 60th floor, perhaps caught by a monster and forced to plant. However, Taijun told Dongshik that the little cat was telling the truth. He had suspected as much from the sweet sun pumpkin potato description, which stated that these crops grew at the tower's highest point, fully absorbing sunlight. Taijun then asked Dongshik, where's the tower's highest point? At this, Dongshik was even more shocked. Then, Taijun said, although he did not know the specific reason, he had realized that Sejun Park was most likely on the 99th floor. Taijun's guess was very accurate, and at this time, Sejun Park was busily working on his farm. After a while, in Teo's hometown of Graner Village, in the residence of the village's richest man, Azriel, due to the invasion of of red locusts. Asriel was worried that the Black Tower might face a food crisis like before. Recently, the price of food in the village had tripled, which made Asriel very troubled. Just as he was frowning, his son Oren was nearby, being affectionate with his girlfriend. Asriel finally lost his patience and angrily questioned his son if he had been listening to him. To this, Oren said he was listening and dismissively said, "Even if the prices have gone up, we're so rich, there's nothing to worry about." Watching his son not only ignore him, but also go to comfort his frightened girlfriend, and seeing him idle all day, Asriel made up his mind to make Oren go to the merchant district to buy food immediately, or else he would disown him. After giving Oren a bag of money, Asriel sent him out. Oren was very angry about this, feeling that buying food was not difficult at all, so he set off with the servants. However, unbeknownst to Oren, the goblin Scarum seemed to have set his sights on him. Soon after, Oren and his men reached the 75th floor's food street, but when he prepared to buy food, he found the prices far exceeded expectations. What originally cost just 1 tower coin now costs 3 to 4 times as much. After a round, Oren was completely dumbfounded. He couldn't understand why the food was so expensive. His 2 men provided the answer, explaining that since the war started, merchants from several levels had been buying up food but not releasing it to the market, causing the food prices to skyrocket. However, Oren quickly thought of a way, which was to bypass the merchants and buy food directly from the farms. With this great idea, Oren did not hesitate and immediately decided to take his men to the Merchant Association because he decided to become a wandering merchant. He also encouraged his men, saying he would support them, and even boasted grandly about making 10 times what was in his tower pocket, ultimately buying countless food. Just as Oren fantasized about becoming a legend in Granner Village, Goblin Scarum greeted him. Hearing Oren's plan to become a wandering merchant, Scarum told him that he had good stuff that could make money fast. Oren was puzzled by this, so Scarum informed him that these were unique treasures from outside the tower. Sometime later, on the 75th floor's Merchant Street, Teo was buying items entrusted by Sejun Park but did not buy everything at once. Considering the space issue, Sejun Park had made a list, and after Teo bought the necessary items this time, he continued walking. At that moment, the little cat suddenly noticed an item that seemed to be attracting him. After confirming, Teo asked the boss for the price. Just then, Oren unexpectedly spotted the little cat. Hearing someone calling him, Teo turned around and was startled. He hadn't expected to meet Oren again, but quickly, the little kitty noticed the badge on the other's chest and curiously asked, "Did you become a wandering merchant?" Oren firmly responded to the little cat and said that thanks to a kind-hearted goblin, he was able to succeed. Most importantly, Oren learned that Teo, the stupid cat, had made a lot of money, so he also wanted to try it out. Then, Oren questioned Teo about how much he earned with the items from outside the tower. With that, the little cat realized that it was with Scarum's help that Oren had become a mid-level wandering merchant. The little cat quickly warned Oren that the goblin was not a good person, and regarding the items from outside the tower, the little cat offered to help Oren deal with them. Unexpectedly, Teo's goodwill was rejected by Oren, who even accused the little cat of being ungrateful. Oren accused Teo of monopolizing the items from outside the tower and even reported the goblin who had helped him to the Passage Management Bureau as a fraud. Teo wanted to explain, but Oren gave him no chance, thinking that Teo hadn't changed at all and was still the poor guy who had been rejected by Meryl. Mentioning this painful memory, Teo no longer wanted to argue with Oren about Scarum. He was more curious about how Meryl was doing. Unexpectedly, Oren's men very honestly said that the day Teo left, Meryl had dumped Oren. Oren, unable to save face, angrily said that he is the one who dumped Meryl. Teo comforted Oren not to be sad, but Oren pushed him away. Next, Oren solemnly told Teo that he had heard that the Minotaur King on the 99th floor liked items from outside the tower, and he planned to go to the 99th floor to sell stuff. After saying this, Oren mocked Teo again, then left happily, leaving only the dumbfounded little cat. Nonetheless, Teo still wished him a smooth journey. The little cat was thinking about what those so-called treasures from outside the tower were all about. Of course, they were all fake. Time flew by, and a few days passed. Today, the corrupted Ent prepared to invade the farm again, but fortunately, the companions were ready to fight early on. After a few days of understanding, Sejun Park finally realized that the real target of these monsters was Little Flame. Unfortunately, those who dared to invade the pit farm were doomed to have no return. Sejun Park slowly picked up the locust soup and drained it with his companions, and Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear was no exception, as drinking locust soup significantly enhances attributes. After handing the finished bowl to the second-generation Little Queen Honeybee, Sejun Park and everyone prepared to charge. The battle began, and Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear was the first to strike. The combat power of the little bear was also not inferior, and they were responsible for dealing with the large monsters. As for Sejun Park, he was in charge of handling the smaller monsters. However, Black Warrior Bunny would also deal with those large corrupted Ent. After dodging a monster that had been knocked down, the opponent took the opportunity to trouble Sejun Park. At this critical moment of life and death, little cat Teo finally appeared in time, unable to tolerate anyone trying to harm Sejun Park. The next second, Teo's claws swiftly swung, Flame, instantly slicing the large corrupted ant into pieces. Looking at the handsome little cat who had rushed back to save him, Sejun Park felt grateful. Sejun Park was extremely excited. As for Teo, he asked what the deal was with the monster in front of him. Sejun Park explained that the ultimate goal of the corrupted ant was to corrupt the apple tree inside the cave called Flame, which he had just found out about recently. Before the little cat could further clarify the situation, a small monster charged towards Sejun Park. However, with Teo by his side, how could Sejun Park possibly get hurt? Sejun Park told the little cat, seeing the monsters closing in, to talk after the monsters were handled. At that moment, the little cat remembered something and then turned to rummage through his backpack. Soon, Teo took out an item. It mentioned that this was something it had found during a lucky moment. Hearing this, Sejun Park immediately beamed with joy, and then he quickly called Aileen, who responded to him right away. The next second, the item brought by the little cat disappeared, and the empathetic manager naturally understood that Sejun Park wanted her to appraise it. Within a few seconds, the appraisal was completed, and Sejun Park also offered a small tomato to complete the quest. When the item reappeared, it had transformed into a shiny hatchet. Holding the weapon, Sejun Park felt a surge of strength throughout his body. According to the message prompt, the name of the hatchet was the Great Warrior Wuka's Throwing Hatchet, and as a named single-item weapon, Sejun Park understood it must have great effects. He felt himself become much stronger in an instant. Through the status windows prompt, the hatchet did not disappoint. Its skill could not only better split things, but 10 seconds later, it could even return automatically. Seeing this, Sejun Park was just thinking about how to use the hatchet when he looked up and saw that Black Warrior Bunny had been accidentally caught. With the situation urgent, he no longer hesitated and quickly aimed at the corrupted ant, directly throwing the hatchet. This strike was so powerful that not only did it free Black Warrior Bunny, but it also caused the huge corrupted ant's body to split. In the next second, it could not hold on and broke in half. Seeing this scene, Black Warrior Bunny could hardly believe it, and Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear was also startled. They had not expected Sejun Park to kill the monster with one strike. Little Bear was very happy because now Sejun Park no longer needed to run away. This joy made him even more motivated to fight monsters. Sejun Park had not expected this either. The status Windows experience gain confirmed that indeed he had resolved the monster. The hatchet truly lived up to its reputation as a named weapon, even in his hands, capable of defeating enemies with a single strike. Then, Sejun Park hugged the little cat and kissed its head wildly. Thanks to Teo, he had acquired such a useful weapon. However, Sejun Park's kisses were not over when another corrupted ant suddenly attacked. Seeing this, Sejun Park calmly raised his hand to use retrieve. The hatchet in the distance suddenly moved, swiftly flying back the same way, and successfully chopped down the attacking monster. Holding the returned hatchet, Sejun Park was rarely so dashing. This powerful weapon left him and the little cat beaming with joy, and then the defense battle unfolded again. Sejun Park and Teo charged confidently at the monsters. Soon, the battle came to a close. The Minotaurs were responsible for clearing the dead monsters, and 1003 were among them, carefully cleaning up the debris. After the cleanup, 1003 called out to Sejun Park outside the cave, telling him that he was going to clear the land. As for Sejun Park himself, after repelling the enemies, he returned to the pit to wash his face. After receiving 1003's message, he responded, "Take your time." Today's battle left Sejun Park aching all over, but it was all worth it. His level had unconsciously risen to 25, and his attributes had also improved nicely. Looking at the skills on the panel, Sejun Park suddenly felt a bit narcissistic. Thinking he was so great, he couldn't help but want to kiss himself. Just then, manager Aileen sent an unfinished message. After being discovered by Sejun Park, Aileen hurriedly withdrew the message. Sejun Park curiously asked what she had said, and Aileen excused herself by claiming there was an error with the status window. This awkward excuse naturally did not convince Sejun Park, who continued to inquire, can the status window really malfunction? However, Aileen did not answer him. Mr. Rabbit continued watering with the children, and little cat Teo, having just heard Sejun Park mention Flame, went up to greet her. Flame happily responded to Teo, instantly piquing the little cat's curiosity. Observing Flame in her phantom state, it couldn't help but fiddle with her back and forth with its paws. Even though Flame was a phantom and couldn't actually be touched, the continuously toyed with little Flame soon couldn't stand it anymore and emitted a flame at the little cat. Though she didn't really intend to hit Teo, it was the first time the little cat had seen an apple tree that could use fire, and it was somewhat surprised, apologizing to Flame and stating it shouldn't have joked. After receiving Flame's forgiveness, Teo took out a fish from his bag, hoping Flame would help grill it. Seeing this, Flame said it was easy, so with a wave of her little hand, the apple tree fired flames again. Shortly after, as the flames grilled, the little cat smelled the aroma of grilled fish. After tasting the grilled fish, Teo repeatedly praised Flame for being amazing. After Sejun Park cleaned himself up, he came over to tell Teo not to bully Flame. Teo explained that he wasn't. He had just asked her to help grill the fish. Hearing how amazing Flame was, Sejun Park was naturally very pleased. Just as the growth-promoting time of the straw had arrived, Sejun Park asked little Flame if she she could use the growth-promoting effect on herself. Flame skeptically asked, "Can such a precious skill be used on me?" Sejun Park said, "Of course, because you are still very small." Hearing this, Flame gratefully accepted and stated she needed to grow up healthy quickly. Then, Sejun Park used magic power and applied the skill towards the sapling. However, the status window informed him that because the apple tree had great potential, it required 10 growth-promoting skills. The next second, Sejun Park immediately felt a strong attraction as his magic power continuously flowed into the apple tree. This feeling surprised Sejun Park, as the magic power seemed to be sucked away. The growth-promoted little flame instantly filled with strength, but her sapling didn't grow much taller. After using the skill, Sejun Park uncontrollably sat down on the ground, feeling as if he was completely drained. Seeing this, Flame was worried about Sejun Park's health, but he reassured her not to worry, probably because he was just too tired from the battle, and he would be fine after some rest. Hearing Sejun Park's words, Flame said she could help alleviate some of the fatigue. Sejun Park was also curious about how she would do it, and soon he noticed some white flames appearing on Flame. Following her guidance, these flames slowly rose and eventually enveloped Sejun Park bit by bit. Once the white flames completely consumed his body, Sejun Park found he no longer felt tired, and his body was very relaxed. Through the message, he then learned that this was Flame's purification skill. Sejun Park became even more convinced that little Flame was a magical apple tree. He then asked Flame if she had any other abilities. Flame replied that she had another ability, named Flame of Friendship. Its effect allows others to temporarily have the ability to control fire or enhance the power of fire. After hearing this, Sejun Park thought this skill might have excellent effects in future confrontations with monsters. At this moment, the somewhat neglected little cat Teo became anxious and quickly urged Sejun Park to listen to him. Teo told Sejun Park that someone named Han Taijun was looking for him. He found out you're not staying on the 40th floor. Hearing this, Sejun Park was initially puzzled, then greatly surprised. He asked the little cat to explain clearly. After some understanding, he learned that the person named Han Taijun was the strongest hunter in his country. More importantly, the little cat had become friends with him, thus exposing Sejun Park's situation. Teo explained that this was why, but he told Sejun Park not to worry, as this matter had already been contracted and would not be leaked. After weighing the options, Sejun Park thought it would be good to be acquainted with Han Taijun and his disciples, as it could provide security for his family. Thus, he told Teo to continue providing crops to them in the future. This incident made Sejun Park see the little cat in a new light. After all, the initial sale of Sweet Sun pumpkin potatoes was a mistake, and unexpectedly, the little cat gained a powerful friend through this. After the message was conveyed, Teo had another favor to ask Sejun Park. "Do you remember why I became a wandering merchant?" Teo asked. Sejun Park recalled for a moment, then remembered. "Wasn't it because a cat named Oren or something stole your girlfriend?" Then, the little cat excitedly said that it had met Oren again, and the other had also become a wandering merchant. More importantly, like itself, he had been deceived by Scarum. Knowing that Oren was taking junk from outside the tower to the Minotaur King, Sejun Park was also surprised. As for Teo's request, it was simple. Teo wanted Sejun Park to help him make Oren see that Scarum was a swindler. Sejun Park thought for a moment, and from the little cat's message, several wandering merchants were rushing to the 99th floor. He quickly became interested, so he agreed to help Teo. After some time, Oren and his group arrived at the 99th floor through the passage. The desolate scenery along the way made Oren wonder what had happened on the 99th floor. At that moment, Oren felt hungry, so he asked the junior next to him for some food. However, the junior told him that all the food had been consumed at the start of the journey, and the only remaining food had been eaten at the beginning as well. At this time, another little cat was already fed up, complaining that they hadn't purchased any necessary travel supplies, feeling sure it would starve to death. Oren, however, was full of confidence, saying, "When we get to the Minotaur King, we'll ask for some food and drink. After all, I've brought valuable things, surely we'll be welcomed." However, the junior reminded Oren that, according to the map given by the goblin, they still needed about 2 days to reach the Minotaur King's place. Just when the three cats were thirsty and hungry, a sound suddenly came from behind. Turning their heads, they saw Pushcart Rabbit and his brother approaching with their goods. Upon meeting, Pushcart Rabbit immediately began shouting, "Ice cold water." Oren and his two juniors rushed over, eager for the merchant in front of them to hand over the water. However, when Pushcart Rabbit said a bottle of water cost 0.5 tower coins, Oren was stunned by the exorbitant price. To this, Pushcart Rabbit calmly asked them to look around and explained, "It's not easy to get water here." He was really uncomfortable from thirst, and after hearing Pushcart Rabbit's words, Oren accepted it, but he found he had no tower coins. Then, Pushcart Rabbit curiously asked, "Are you the wandering merchants looking for the Minotaur King?" Oren proudly said they had brought many precious items to trade. Pushcart Rabbit then told Oren that since they were guests of the Minotaur King, they could buy on credit. Oren thought it was just a verbal promise, but Pushcart Rabbit immediately handed over some papers. It turned out to be a contract guaranteeing the credit, stipulating that if the money wasn't paid back within 3 days, 10 times the tower coins would be owed. Such harsh terms immediately made Oren shout out. Pushcart Rabbit explained that resources on the 99th floor were too scarce, and it was hard to make a living without such measures. Pushcart Rabbit also mentioned that if they had no money, they could pay with their bodies. Oren thought to himself that there was no way he could not pay back. As long as he met the Minotaur King and completed the trade, he would earn enough money. So, he decisively signed the contract. After the contract was signed, the three cats took the water. Oren told Pushcart Rabbit to come for the money in 3 days, believing he would surely earn a large number of tower coins through the trade. Pushcart Rabbit wished Oren good fortune. By the next day, the water they bought was almost gone. After drinking the last drop from the bottle, Oren complained, "Just drinking water makes me hungrier." However, due to the high temperature, after walking a bit, he was thirsty again and asked the junior for water. The junior wanted to refuse, but under Oren's pressure, could only agree with tears. Just then, another junior saw something ahead. The junior quickly told Oren, "There seems to be a restaurant not far away." Oren initially didn't believe it, but after sniffing carefully, he immediately smelled the aroma of grilled fish. As they approached, the little bunnies introduced, "This is the only rabbit restaurant on the 99th floor." The three cats quickly asked Sickle Rabbit to grill fish for them. However, when the little bunny said a fish cost 1 tower coin, Oren was shocked again. Sickle Rabbit explained reasonably, as there were no lakes or seas nearby, fish were hard to find. Seeing Sickle Rabbit pull out the same contract as before, Oren grabbed it and signed his name without hesitation. After the contract was established, they immediately wanted the grilled fish. Sickle Rabbit was naturally willing to satisfy them and then started grilling. Soon after, golden grilled fish was placed in front of the three cats, and they couldn't control their drooling. The next second, they crazily enjoyed the delicious food. During this, they also ordered other foods like charcoal grilled squid, and Sickle Rabbit satisfied them one by one, until their stomachs were completely full. The three cats lay down on the straw mats to rest, while the little bunnies cleaned up the scene. Oren muttered about hurrying to sell the goods to the Minotaur King and then coming back to pay, but because they had eaten too much, the few cats all lay down and fell asleep. Sickle Rabbit and Art Gray Rabbit silently watched, and before leaving, they didn't forget to say goodnight to the three cats. After some time, Oren heard some noise nearby and woke up to find the junior trembling. Looking up, they saw a Minotaur appear before them, immediately dispelling Oren's drowsiness. The Minotaur asked if they were looking for the Minotaur King. At this time, Oren and his companions were very scared and frantically explained that they were wandering merchants. Unexpectedly, the Minotaurs not only did not harm them, but instead expressed that they would take them to meet the Minotaur King. Upon hearing this, Oren was overjoyed. With the help of the Minotaurs, the three little cats smoothly reached the teleportation crystal. However, the shocking scene ahead left them speechless. Then, the Minotaur King finally spoke. "Is it you who were looking for me?" Suppressing his fear, Oren responded that he had brought many precious items and wanted to trade with the Minotaur King, specifically emphasizing that these were items from outside the tower. Hearing about the items from outside the tower, the Minotaur King stated that he needed an expert to confirm the value of these items. With a wave of the Minotaur King's large hand, a person stepped forward from behind him, and it was Sejun Park. When the Minotaur King addressed Sejun Park as the Great Black Dragon, the three little cats were immediately confused. The quicker reacting Oren was surprised to encounter the Black Dragon here. At that moment, Sejun Park introduced himself. "I am the Great Black Dragon, and I possess the ability to appraise rare magical artifacts, so lies do not work in front of me." Then, he asked Oren to bring out the so-called items. Now, Oren began to think about how to handle this sudden turn of events. The Black Dragon is the strongest creature controlling the tower. If it liked his items, then he wouldn't need to worry about the Minotaur King and other monsters. If he could win over the Black Dragon this time, Oren might become a well-known figure within the tower. Thinking this, Oren hurriedly dumped out all his items and said, "Here they all are." Sejun Park crouched down to carefully examine the items, only to discover that they were just junk from Earth. Among them a used lint roller he was holding. Sejun Park wondered how Scarem managed to get these things. Seeing the Black Dragon select the lint roller, Oren immediately began to tout its advantages. "This is a magical tool that can easily remove dust and hair." Sejun Park casually asked about the price, not expecting Oren to blurt out an asking price of 50 tower coins on the spot. Even Oren's two juniors were shocked, as Scarem had sold it to them for only 5 tower coins. Oren continued to claim it was a very precious magical tool and thought his price was not high. After all, such things were almost impossible to buy within the tower. Hearing this, Sejun Park sighed lightly, and the next second coldly said, "Lying is useless in front of me." He picked up the lint roller and told Oren, "This is just a consumable, very common on Earth." Overall, all the items Oren brought were just trash, not the so-called magical tools. The same was true for the other items. Sejun Park's words panicked Oren, who argued, "Everyone says these are magical tools." He also hinted that perhaps the Black Dragon was lying in order to buy them cheaply, but Oren soon realized he had misspoken, and the response was an angry punch from the Minotaur King. The Minotaur King questioned Oren, "How dare you say the Great Black Dragon is lying?" Although not hurt, Oren was terrified, and Sejun Park was also somewhat panicked. Oren and the two cats repeatedly apologized, admitting they shouldn't have tried to deceive the great black dragon, and requested forgiveness for their rudeness. At this moment, Oren finally understood that since the great black dragon had the ability to discern, Teo had been right. Scarum indeed was a swindler. Please at least spare our lives. Meanwhile, Sejun Park reminded Oren, I shall spare your lives. However, what about the debts you've accumulated along the way? Hearing this, Oren was even more shocked. Then, Sejun Park also stated, I run some businesses inside the tower, and the food and drink you consumed earlier were on credit from my shop. As soon as the words fell, Sickle Rabbit and his companions came out and calculated a bill for Oren, adding up all the water and food multiplied by 10 times. Oren owed about 500 tower coins in debt. Additionally, Sickle Rabbit mentioned they charged for lodging and miscellaneous fees, and if converted to bricks, the three cats would need to make 100,000 bricks to repay the debt. Sickle Rabbit's words left Oren puzzled, not understanding what the so-called bricks meant. The Minotaur King timely added, if you can't pay with money, then pay with your body. Hearing this, Oren suddenly remembered that the little bunnies had also mentioned paying with their bodies. Then, Sejun Park took them to see how to make bricks. Watching the hardworking Minotaurs, the three cats finally understood what bricks and paying with your body meant. According to the calculations made by Sickle Rabbit, the three cats needed to make 100,000 bricks to repay the debt. You must make 100,000 bricks here. Oren and his juniors were stunned by the size of a brick. It was impossible for them to make 100,000 bricks. Sejun Park calmly said, you indeed cannot finish. Even if you can barely make 10 a day, it would take 10,000 days. Most crucially, during this period, the costs for lodging and food would still accrue, and the number of bricks would also increase. This meant that the three cats would be trapped here forever. Hearing this, Oren and his two juniors quickly begged for mercy, hoping the great black dragon would forgive them and willing to do anything as long as it wasn't making bricks. Hearing this, Sejun Park told Oren that he could give them a chance. The head of the distribution department just happened to need some manpower. Sejun Park explained, you only need to pack goods into bags and then work in the farm's distribution department for 10,000 days, selling goods during this period to repay the debt. At the same time, Sejun Park promised that they would be provided with a roasted fish each day, and working on the farm would not incur additional debts. Hearing this, Oren promptly agreed, and he and his two juniors were very grateful for the Black Dragon's forgiveness. Next, a new contract was drafted. For Oren, working 10,000 days was much better than making bricks. The key was not only solving the food problem, but also working under the Great Black Dragon, giving Oren no reason to refuse. After the contract was signed and came into effect, Sejun Park congratulated them on becoming interns in the distribution department. When Oren asked what to do next, Sejun Park answered, the head of the distribution department will tell you. The next second, little cat Teo finally made a grand appearance, becoming their direct supervisor. The first time they saw Teo, Oren couldn't believe it, questioning, how could the manager possibly be Teo, this beggar? However, the response he got was a ruthless punch from the little cat. Teo coldly told Oren, you should show some respect to your supervisor. After reprimanding Oren, the little cat grandly introduced itself, saying it was the Black Dragon's first subordinate and the head of the distribution department, and informed Oren and the others, from now on, you three are under my command. Seeing this, the other two cats were very sensible, immediately calling Teo boss, while Oren, as if in a dream, ultimately had no choice but to submit and obey Teo. After some time, everyone returned to the pit farm. Now, the little cat was introducing Oren and the others to the work environment and saying they should try out the job content first. Seeing this scene, Sejun Park was very pleased. Not only did Teo get his revenge, but he also gained many subordinates to sell crops, and the addition of 3 backpacks was sure to bring in more revenue. All this was also thanks to the cooperation of the Minotaur King. Hearing Sejun Park's thanks, the Minotaur King modestly said, don't mention it, this is also following the Black Dragon's instructions. Most importantly, as neighbors, we should help each other. If I could receive a more sincere thank you, I'd be even happier, the Minotaur King said while drooling. Hearing this, Sejun Park understood what he meant and said, you can take the green onion leaves and tomato vines next to you back home. Seeing the Minotaur King's excited look, Sejun Park was somewhat helpless. Looking back, it turned out to be Teo scolding his subordinates. Then, Teo's voice came from the farm, the green tomatoes are not ripe yet, don't pick them. Also, if you remove the top of the small tomatoes, it greatly reduces their commercial value. The 3 cats obviously had no knowledge about tomatoes and kept making one mistake after another, which made Teo a bit angry, and he immediately ordered them to sit down properly. He would personally demonstrate how to properly harvest crops next. Seeing such a comical scene, Sejun Park couldn't help but remark Teo really forgot how he was at the beginning. However, since the little cat was the head of sales, Sejun Park let him be. Watching the 3 cats being overwhelmed by his knowledge, Teo became increasingly arrogant. Ever since Teo became the distribution manager, facing Oren who had become his subordinate, the little cat became more arrogant. While working, Oren pondered why Teo could become a subordinate of the Black Dragon. What displeased him more was his own situation, feeling like he had become Teo's servant. However, before Oren could think further, the next second, Teo smacked him in the head, which enraged Oren, who then demanded, "Why did you hit me?" The little cat calmly replied, "It's working hours, and you were spacing out." An angry Oren grabbed Teo by the collar, seemingly ready to start a fight. But at that moment, he felt a terrifying presence overhead and turned to see it was the old silver wolf, Elka. Oren quickly released his grip on Teo's collar, daring not to make another move. Oren's attitude changed instantly, quickly claiming he only saw a bug on Teo's shirt and wanted to help clean it off. The little cat coldly responded, "If you don't learn how to behave properly, you will be scolded." After continuing to pick for a while, Teo went to check on the work of the other two cats. Learning they were the fastest to fill their packages, Teo immediately praised them on the spot and shortened their contract by 1 day. Seeing this, Oren hastily asked if he had any rewards, but because of his sluggish work, the little cat instead extended Oren's contract by a day. At this time, Sejun Park also came over and asked Teo with concern, "How is it going? Are you about to go down to sell things?" The little cat replied, "It's okay. It's just that their packages are too old and have very little usable space." To this, Sejun Park consoled, "No worries, you can slowly upgrade later." Then, noticing that Sejun Park was fully armed, Teo curiously asked him where he was going. Sejun Park excitedly answered, "I'm going to check out the western forest." This made the little cat somewhat puzzled. After some time, everyone gathered together, and at the farewell, Teo finally learned that Sejun Park was going to confront those monsters, which made him worry about his safety. Sejun Park reassured the little cat, "Go ahead and sell things without worry. With Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear and Little Bear around, there's nothing to worry about. You being overly concerned will make Little Bear unhappy." Sejun Park also mentioned that he had a secret weapon for his trip. Teo felt that this time was different from the battles on the farm. This was going directly to the monster's den. Old Silver Wolf Elka thought this was very interesting. With Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear and Little Bear accompanying him, Teo didn't say much more. Sejun Park urged him to hurry down. "This time, you need to set a good example for the new interns." Understanding that it was time to go selling, Teo reminded Sejun Park to be careful. Then everyone waved goodbye. This was Teo and the three cats' first sale, and Sejun Park and his group were ready, having traveled a long distance towards the west. Soon, Sejun Park and Little Bear reached the fallen monster's territory. The spookiness of this place far exceeded Sejun Park's expectations, and the scent from the withered trees was almost unbearable for Little Bear. Before long, Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear suddenly alerted Sejun Park, having spotted the enemy ahead. Indeed, many corrupted ents appeared in front of them, blocking their path. At first, Sejun Park thought they were no different from ordinary trees, but Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear insisted he stop. Sure enough, the next second, the roots in the ground began to move, and then all those corrupted ents came to life. Their stench was several times stronger than the monsters that had invaded the farm earlier. Sejun Park didn't expect these corrupted ents to also have different types, and one of the corrupted ents launched the first attack. Fortunately, Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear acted in time to protect Sejun Park, but faced with the simultaneous attack of many corrupted ents, Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear was quickly entangled by the vines. Sejun Park understood that it was his time to act. He flung his straw hat from his head and drew the two weapons at his waist. At this moment, a flame suddenly rose above Sejun Park's head, which was the secret weapon prepared by Flame. However, before Sejun Park could display it stylishly, Little Bear covered his head with its paw, thinking that Sejun Park's hair was on fire, and even blew on the flames for him. Fortunately, Sejun Park stopped Little Bear in time. Next, Sejun Park's two weapons rubbed against each other, preparing for battle. The friction between Sejun Park's two weapons generated a similar flame, and now he had the ability to control fire. The small flame quickly grew into a fierce blaze under Sejun Park's control, and the fire rapidly flew towards the monsters. The dry corrupted ents encountered fire like meeting their nemesis. After the vines were burned off, Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear successfully escaped. Seeing the effect of the fire, Sejun Park was very excited, but as the fire grew bigger, he quickly told Little Bear and the others to retreat. If they didn't leave soon, he worried they would be engulfed by the flames. The fire was even fiercer than Sejun Park had anticipated, and he urged Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear to speed up. However, they soon encountered a new situation. A group of corrupted ents blocked their path. This time, they were almost caught in a dilemma. Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear quickly asked, "Can we still use that ability from earlier?" After receiving an affirmative response from Sejun Park, she told Little Bear what to do. As they approached the corrupted ents quickly, Sejun Park activated Flame's ability again, and the flames were launched once more. However, Little Bear suddenly jumped over Sejun Park's head and went straight for the ball of fire. The next second, to Sejun Park's surprise, Little Bear suddenly grabbed the flames and then threw them with force. The impact of this strike far exceeded Sejun Park's original flames, covering the entire forest in a massive fire explosion. This great fire also caught the attention of the Minotaurs in the desolate land. The Minotaur King, curious, asked what exactly happened in the western forest. Shortly after, the little bunnies in the pit also saw the smoke rising in the distance. Mr. Rabbit recognized it, thinking it must be flames Flames ability. He had just heard Sejun Park say he would use Flame's power. Just then, Sejun Park and his group successfully returned, but during their passage through the flames, not only was Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear completely blackened by smoke, but Sejun Park and Little Bear were not spared either. Seeing their disheveled appearance, their friends were instantly very worried. After returning to the pit farm to rest, Sejun Park quickly recovered his spirits and thanked Flame's ability, stating that without Flame's help, they might not have been able to return this time. Mr. Rabbit then told him, "You are still a bit reckless." To this, Sejun Park helplessly said that recently, monsters invaded the farm every day, which he couldn't stand anymore. However, he believed that after this fiery lesson, the monsters would stay quiet for a long time. Just as he was preparing to sleep, Sejun Park discovered that his beekeeping skill had reached level 4, and subsequently, the little queen honeybees happily sought him out. Sejun Park curiously asked, "What happened?" The first-generation queen honeybee told him, "Please suggest which flowers to make honey jelly. This is an ability you gained after leveling up." The queen honeybees were happy for Sejun Park because honey jelly is not only delicious but also enhances abilities. Hearing that honey jelly could enhance his abilities, Sejun Park immediately became interested. In another part of the manager's space, Aileen was luxuriously soaking in a bath, enjoying her drink contentedly. Sejun Park's red locust cherry tomato soup made Aileen very satisfied. She drank it several times a day. Recently, Aileen felt she had grown again. Her wings were much larger than before. Although she was already progressing quickly, Aileen felt it wasn't enough. She was very much looking forward to the restoration of the dragon heart, leaving the manager's space, and finally flying majestically in the sky during the blue moon. Thinking of seeing Sejun Park then, Aileen couldn't help but look forward even more. After raising her head, Aileen looked at the crystal ball. Recalling earlier events, Sejun Park had said he wanted to try Flame's ability. Aileen decided to see how things were going, but just a few steps out, Aileen suddenly felt a blank in her mind, followed by a hard fall to the ground. Intense pain came from the dragon heart. Aileen sought Sejun Park's help, but she couldn't even make it to the crystal ball. In the end, she murmured Sejun Park's name before completely losing consciousness. Fortunately, the Black Tower sensed the manager's crisis and activated an emergency system, seeking help from the last person Aileen called out to, Sejun Park. Meanwhile, Sejun Park was unaware, watching the little bees work hard. Since making honey jelly required pollen, the little bees were collecting pollen, and the jelly production was proceeding smoothly. The task of making honey jelly was entrusted to the queen honeybees. Under their nimble little hands, batches of delicious honey jelly gradually formed, even attracting Mr. Rabbit's attention. Nowadays, this type of honey jelly could only be made using specific honey and pollen. After reviewing the related information, Sejun Park was also curious about how exactly honey jelly could enhance abilities. In the Black Tower, it was extremely difficult for any awakened to enhance their abilities, usually requiring extensive trials. If it could be achieved by eating, it would shock the entire Black Tower. Little Bear, like Sejun Park, was also looking forward to the completion of this delicacy. Before long, the first-generation queen honeybee found Sejun Park, telling him the jelly was ready. Just smelling the sweet aroma, Little Bear couldn't help but drool. Seeing this, Sejun Park quickly raised his hat and asked Little Bear to call everyone to come and taste. Upon hearing this, Little Bear immediately set off to notify everyone. Meanwhile, the queen honeybees prepared to make some more. Sejun Park opened his status window to see that this batch of jelly could enhance abilities related to magic, likely because it was made using magic tomato pollen. However, unfortunately, Sejun Park himself didn't have any magic-related abilities, which made him a bit disappointed. At this moment, Little Bear had already called everyone over. Since there was a limited quantity, Sejun Park told everyone to taste one piece each first. Although it couldn't enhance abilities, Sejun Park was still curious about the taste of the jelly. Little Bear thought about saving some, which made Black Warrior Bunny unable to hold back a laugh, teasing him. Little Bear then asked Sejun Park for another piece. After all, the honey jelly is so small, how can I save it? The rest should be given to Sister Aileen. Sejun Park told it that Aileen really likes small tomatoes, and she would surely like jelly made from small tomatoes even more. Then, Sejun Park began calling Aileen's name. However, the status window of the Black Tower soon showed not a message from Aileen, but a shocking notification: Aileen's is dying from the Dragon Heart Rampage. This news made Sejun Park panic instantly. Immediately afterward, the Black Tower issued a new mission, asking Sejun Park to help stabilize Aileen's Dragon Heart. Sejun Park quickly inquired of the Black Tower why the Dragon Heart was out of control. Little Bear and the others, hearing that Aileen was in trouble, were also very anxious. At the same time, the Black Tower told Sejun Park that Aileen had absorbed too much magic, and the solidified Dragon Heart could not withstand it, leading to the runaway. Knowing this reason, Sejun Park suddenly realized it might be because of the food he had previously given to Aileen, most of which could increase magic power. Thinking of this, Sejun Park was so scared he almost couldn't stand. He urgently asked the Black Tower how he could help Aileen. Fortunately, after screening, the Black Tower finally offered a solution. Sejun Park had some something that could help Aileen. Sejun Park's mind raced, realizing that Eileen's abilities weren't strong enough to handle the absorbed magic power. Luckily, the honey jelly could precisely enhance magic-related abilities. At that moment, Little Bear proactively handed over its uneaten portion of jelly, suggesting that Sejun Park give it to Sister Aileen. The other friends were also anxious, and everyone quickly picked up their honey jelly, ready to send it to treat Eileen's dragon heart. Sejun Park swiftly collected the jelly into his hat and hurriedly transmitted the jelly to Aileen through the Black Tower's window. Accompanied by a mission completion notification, the jelly traveled through the window and entered Eileen's mouth. After consuming a large amount of honey jelly, the next second Eileen's body emitted a golden glow. Soon, the status window indicated that after the enhancement from the honey jelly, Eileen's dragon heart had stopped going berserk. Sejun Park anxiously asked the system, "Is she okay?" The Black Tower provided a temporary safety response. The dragon heart had stabilized for now. Sejun Park felt puzzled. Although the situation was temporarily stable, if Eileen's dragon heart could not continue to grow, there was still a risk of losing control again. However, relieved that there was no immediate danger, Sejun Park finally breathed a sigh of relief. He believed that a solution for the solidified dragon heart would be found in the future. Meanwhile, in the space outside the Black Tower, connected to the tower, the crystal emitted a strong light. Eileen's father Anton and grandfather Kaiser also noticed it. Soon, a status window appeared on the crystal, displaying a record of activities during the emergency system activation of the Black Tower. Seeing this message, Kaiser immediately guessed that Eileen's dragon heart had acted up. Anton thought the emergency contact was Kaiser, but Kaiser said he hadn't received any messages. He explained that if Aileen had called for him, he could have bypassed the Black Tower's management area and stopped her outburst directly. If not, under the protection of the Black Tower's security system, they could not open the passage to the inside of the Black Tower. As Kaiser and Anton worried about this, the Black Tower finally sent out the activity record. After reading the information, Anton's mood relaxed a lot, and he showed a relieved smile, because not only was Aileen still alive, her dragon heart was more stable than before. However, at this moment, Anton noticed that his father Kaiser's mood was off. Kaiser was downhearted because the person Aileen last called was not him, but a stranger named Sejun Park. Seeing Kaiser's reaction, Anton sensed trouble and quickly explained, "The other party must have been helping Aileen all along. Regardless, it is crucial to open the portal as soon as possible." However, the next second Kaiser transformed, indignantly saying, "My granddaughter used to call for me, but this time it was someone else." Kaiser realized that someone must have stolen his granddaughter's heart, which made him very jealous as a grandfather. Anton continued to urge his father, "It's too embarrassing to have an outburst here." But by then, other clan members had already noticed their situation and were used to Kaiser's reaction, even joking about it. However, in the shadows, a dragon was silently observing all this, feeling that this might be a good opportunity. A while later, Aileen finally showed signs of awakening. It seemed she had had a terrible nightmare, and the next second, she was startled into jumping up. At that moment, Aileen realized she was still alive, carefully felt the changes within her body, and was surprised to find that her dragon heart was more stable than before. A somewhat puzzled Aileen turned her gaze to the crystal ball and, after gently placing her hand on it, the Black Tower quickly informed her of what had just happened. After reading the information, Aileen understood that she had called for Sejun Park in the end. Aileen was curious about what method Sejun Park had used and, noticing the effect of the honey jelly, she guessed the process. An item that could enhance abilities was indeed what she needed most at the moment. The only regret was that she had eaten the jelly while unconscious, so Aileen didn't know its taste. But regardless, having received someone else's help, as the Great Black Dragon, she must sincerely reciprocate. Therefore, she decided to give Sejun Park some form of compensation. Soon, Aileen went to her treasure room, searching through a plethora of precious items for a long time, yet she couldn't find a suitable gift. Thus, the Great Black Dragon began to ponder what a farmer might need. While she was thinking, a large statue in front of her caught her attention. Aileen thought, "If I give this, Sejun Park will surely love it." Meanwhile, there was peace at the farm. Sejun Park and the others, having been busy, were now resting well outside the house. After some sleep, Eileen's message popped up again. Seeing the message, Sejun Park immediately perked up and hurriedly asked how she was. Hearing that Aileen was fine, Sejun Park also breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that he almost harmed Aileen with his small tomatoes. Aileen reassured him, saying she didn't blame him, and explained that her condition flares up once every 10 years, thanks to the small tomatoes that she managed to get through at this time. Seeing this, Sejun Park truly relaxed, previously thinking he had harmed Aileen. At this moment, Sejun Park remembered that Little Bear and the Little Bees had made a lot of honey jelly, and he planned to give some to Aileen. Hearing that Sejun Park wanted to bring her jelly, Aileen laughed and issued a new task, saying she wanted to repay her life-saving debt first. Aileen told Sejun Park, "Just shout towards the sky, and you will receive something great." She also reminded him to go to a more open area. Thus, the friends went to an open area not far from the house. Sejun Park took a deep breath and shouted Eileen's name towards the sky. The friends thought something exciting would happen, but nothing did. Just when Sejun Park was puzzled, the status window suddenly indicated the task was completed. The reward was an alien 100th anniversary fountain. The next second, a massive statue appeared out of nowhere above Sejun Park's head. Seeing this huge object falling from the sky, everyone was momentarily stunned. Fortunately, as the statue touched the ground, Sejun Park and the others managed to dodge it successfully. The sheer size of the item completely bewildered Sejun Park. In front of this giant statue, they were almost as small as ants. At this time, the statue's mouth moved and then spewed out a large amount of water. From the window's message, Sejun Park learned that this fountain was a gift from Eileen's grandfather, and it has a water-producing skill up to level 50. However, the statue's remaining 2 skills were displayed as question marks. As Aileen said, the gift was indeed big. She also told Sejun Park that the fountain could save time watering the farm. After hearing this, Sejun Park remembered that as the farm expanded, Mr. Rabbit and the others were somewhat lagging in watering speed. With this fountain, there was no need to fetch water from the cave anymore. After understanding the use of the fountain, Sejun Park was very thankful to Aileen. But when he inquired about the other skills, Aileen admitted she did not know them. Following Eileen's instructions, Sejun Park tried to control the statue. Accompanied by his summon, something resembling a handle appeared. From the message, he learned this was the fountain's controller. However, Sejun Park felt it was just like a game controller. With a mindset to just try it out, Sejun Park started to operate the controller. To his surprise, the fountain really moved, a scene that opened the eyes of his friends. Sejun Park excitedly said it was as fun as playing a game. As he controlled it, Little Bear and Little Rabbits even mimicked the statue's actions. However, as everyone was enjoying themselves, due to Sejun Park's inexperienced handling, the dragon head suddenly rushed down. Fortunately, Little Bear acted in time, punching the statue but also breaking the fountain's dragon horn in the process. Seeing this, Sejun Park jumped, and his friends also exclaimed, disturbing Aileen, who was resting. Aileen came over to ask what had happened, and Sejun Park hurriedly explained that it was nothing. They were just carefully examining the fountain. Little Bear and the others also chimed in. In fact, before Aileen arrived, Builder Gray Rabbit had quickly repaired the broken horn, hiding the traces of the accident. Seeing that nothing serious had happened, Aileen happily went back to rest. Sejun Park was relieved she hadn't noticed the change in the gift. Meanwhile, on the 67th floor of the Black Tower, Elka was collecting the bodies of locusts with his clan members. Today, he also brought his son, which worried Elka's wife a bit. Elka reassured her, "Don't worry, with the blade leaks here, it's very safe." The coalition had already figured out the locusts' attack patterns and timings, and currently, the lizard men were gathering blade leaks and planting them where the locusts were expected to attack next, preparing to counterattack during the locusts' resting phase. Elka also stated that he would fight to the death to protect his family. At that moment, Elka's child picked up a locust and excitedly reported the good news to his parents. However, suddenly, numerous red locusts attacked from behind the little silver wolf, startling Elka and his wife. In a life-or-death moment, lizard man warriors stepped in timely, swiftly killing a large number of locusts, saving the little silver wolf. The attack pattern of the locusts had changed, and the lizard man warrior loudly informed all comrades to retreat immediately. In the next second, the locusts furiously charged towards the coalition soldiers. By the following evening, the 9th blue moon finally arrived at the pit. Aileen appeared in the sky again, and Sejun Park looked up at her, unable to help but remark, "Aileen is really beautiful." While admiring Eileen's beauty, he also turned to ask about the condition of Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear. The deep red giant bear stated that she was fine. Under the influence of Eileen's power, their spirits had stabilized and would not enter a frenzied state. For Sejun Park, this was undoubtedly good news. Then, Mr. Rabbit and his friends ran over, telling him that the blue moon crops had sprouted at the farm. Hearing this, Sejun Park immediately put on his hat and hurried to the farm. They started with the blue moon small tomatoes, and this time, the crop was larger than before, with Cart Rabbit filling up a whole cart. Little Rabbit also told Sejun Park that blue moon crops had appeared in the cornfield as well. Therefore, Sejun Park quickly entered the cornfield and indeed saw 2 corn cobs that had absorbed the essence of the blue moon. At this moment, Eileen's message arrived, stating she had used her power to stabilize the 99th floor and was feeling very tired. To stabilize her dragon heart, Sejun Park decided not to give her small tomatoes but instead sent the 2 blue moon corn cobs to Aileen. After bidding farewell to Aileen, Sejun Park was preparing to collect other crops when he suddenly discovered a corn plant emitting a red glow in front of him. Out of curiosity, he approached and gently plucked the corn. Instantly, a message popped up in the status window, revealing that this was a new variety called Exploding Stamina Corn. This corn was surprising not only because it could break down fats and boost stamina, but also because it could make hair grow thicker. Most importantly, the corn would expand tenfold when heated. Sejun Park had successfully cultivated 3 new crop varieties in the tower, and this news would soon reach the Food Supplies Association. For Sejun Park, the most shocking aspect was the ability of the Exploding Stamina Corn to enhance hair growth. After confirming what he had seen, Sejun Park was ecstatic as if he had discovered a treasure. His commotion caught Little Bear's attention. Seeing Little Bear, Sejun Park even asked, "How does my hair usually look?" Little Bear's response was straightforward, "Not good." Hearing this, Sejun Park immediately ordered that they all start planting exploding stamina corn the next day. He planned to keep some as seeds, then suddenly remembered the description that the corn would expand when heated. Driven by curiosity, he decided to seek out Flame for help to see the change when heated. To Sejun Park's surprise, Flame had undergone significant changes. Little Flame told Sejun Park that she had grown up, and Sejun Park was curious if this was related to absorbing the essence of the blue moon. Confirming this, Flame nodded, stating that she had been filled with strength after basking in the moonlight. Flame also informed Sejun Park that she had gained a third ability called Flame of Protection and offered to demonstrate it for him. As Flame activated her ability, Sejun Park was instantly enveloped in a mysterious blue flame that felt ghostly yet not hot. Flame explained that these flames would protect their master well. Sejun Park happily accepted Flame's power and took out the exploding stamina corn, asking Flame to help heat it. After some thought, Flame devised a method. She instructed Sejun Park to seal the top of the corn first and then proceed with heating. With Flame of Protection protecting him, Sejun Park could confidently apply heat. During Flame's continuous heating, Sejun Park was unharmed. Soon, the corn in his hand began to swell. After the heating was complete, Flame allowed him to open and check. Sejun Park slowly untied the tied corn silk and discovered that the corn kernels had turned into popcorn. Excited, Sejun Park called his friends over, sprinkled a little salt as seasoning, and they began tasting this unexpected treat. Grabbing a handful and putting it in their mouths, Little Bear and Sejun Park were amazed by the deliciousness of the popcorn, and Black Warrior Bunny and the others were no exception. After finishing, Sejun Park even joked that it seemed Little Bear's fur had become nicer, to which Little Bear laughed and said, "Daddy's hair is denser too." Just as Sejun Park wondered whom Little Bear had learned to speak this way from, a huge tremor suddenly came from above the pit, leaving the companions at a loss. Weren't the monsters supposed to have been appeased by Aileen? Then, Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear quickly came to inform Sejun Park to come out and see. Sejun Park went outside the pit, and the scene before him was unbelievable. The corrupted Ents had launched another attack, and two new types of monsters had appeared. The information indicated that the yellow ones were Poison Mist corrupted Ents, and the purple ones were Sticky Flower Attack Soldier corrupted Ents. What was worse, this time the scale of the monsters was far beyond before. Sejun Park hadn't expected the monster attack to come so suddenly, having thought they would have a break after the last battle, but these creatures had chosen to strike during the Blue Moon period. However, Sejun Park was not frightened. He instructed his friends to get ready to burn these monsters with torches. However, the next second, the Sticky Flower corrupted Ents launched an attack, targeting everyone's torches. The corrupted Ents' sticky projectiles quickly knocked the torches from everyone's hands, leaving a sticky liquid on their hands. Just then, another anomaly occurred below. Sejun Park saw a poisonous mist spreading, making the situation even more dangerous. Black Warrior Bunny quickly pushed Sejun Park away, sensing the poisonous nature of the mist. This was an attack launched by the poison mist corrupted Ents. Faced with the dense poisonous mist, Sejun Park and the others could only continue to retreat. At this moment, Little Bear directed Sejun Park's attention forward, where amidst the monster lines, an immense and terrifying corrupted Ent appeared. Its roots were even larger than those of the ground tree demons. Soon, a message was provided. This was a fallen corrupted Ent that had absorbed the energy of the blue moon, its size as if it could reach the sky. Sejun Park hadn't expected that the corrupted Ents could also absorb the power of the blue moon and become stronger. Mother Crimson Grizzly Bear warned that things had become very tricky, and Sejun Park deeply agreed. Facing such an exaggerated blue moon corrupted Ent, he wasn't sure how he could defeat it. However, behind him was the home that the companions had built together. Sejun Park didn't want to give up. He wanted to strive to face the enemy, but the current situation seemed to have reached its limit. The little rabbits felt fear, and everyone's morale gradually waned. Just then, Sejun Park suddenly heard someone calling his name from behind. Slowly turning around, the companions couldn't believe their eyes. The giant statue had actually moved on its own and could even speak. The statue spoke again. "I am the great dragon Anton Furtani, Eileen's father, and I've come to help you." Hearing this, the companions were all stunned, and Sejun Park was equally shocked, not expecting Eileen's father to personally come to their aid.